All right. What's up, family? What's going on? Coming to you live. Coming to you live. This video is gonna be about TDA accounts were real, but who's blocking our access? Let me see if I can get some better lighting in here. Light things up. First, before we get started, welcome to Dorsey's Resource. I'm your host, John Dorsey. I'm going to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you need to seek a professional attorney, accountant, financial analyst, securities broker, or whomever, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my thoughts and opinions on the topic. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, let's go. Topic of this video, I wanted to go over TDA accounts were real, and I'm just weighing in, giving my opinions, my theories. I saw a video that I still follow Harvey Dent occasionally when I can. A video he put out a while ago about that code R34 limited participation. I got that some years ago. I did try these out. It went viral last summer for the first time, but there was a group I was part of where they did this many years ago, because I attended the Pastor Tony King seminars, which I won't really go over in this video. You guys can watch my previous videos where I discussed that already, what was going on. I might go more in depth, and I went public to show validity, but in my opinion, I remember that he stated some years back that you needed to fill out the consent application. Now, I forgot about that because there was you had to go through like an interviewing process, allegedly. I had never done it, but I saw the paperwork before. I had someone, people who attended, I won't say who they were because I understand private, they want to be private, and I do respect people's privacy too, by the way. I have close confidants that I don't mention. I will never share their names. We're like this, you know, there's certain people that can't get this close to me, just for example. But I've also disseminated and researched information. I'm a researcher. That's what I do in depth. So I just wanted to kind of give my way in. I did have some notes with me too, dealing with this code that people were getting, this R34. Like the payments would go through, and there was trolls out there trying to say that it wasn't real. But notice, why did these creditors or debt collectors and utility companies, some of them changed their payment processors? Because these accounts were working, and I did confirm with Telecheck, the lady that worked there, she had never met me before at the time, and I asked her to look up different routing numbers for me, and my social security number, which I gave her, was the account number. And to my surprise, I was stunned. She told me she could see, she was able to pull up in the system that I had an account at the Federal Reserve, and I also had an account at the Treasury, and they had instructions with how these type of accounts were used, like if it was going to be ACH only, or if it was if it could do ACH and wire, or if it was check writing and ACH. But you get the drift. There was different variations of how I guess these accounts were supposed to be used. And when I attended that event some years ago, I was telling people, they asked me, I'm not the foremost authority. I don't do consultations yet. I was looking at it maybe down the line just privately for educational purposes, but I will not guarantee the outcome. But I definitely can confirm that these accounts were real. This information that was being shared by these very elite people was definitely indeed real. And they left us hanging at the time. They didn't finish going over the information because I was told years later. I didn't know this originally. I still ask a lot of questions to this day. I'm still pondered. I still remain. I was very inquisitive, and thankfully I was able to squeeze some things out of a few sources, several sources, that I had was able to confirm that, you know, we were waiting on some type of reset or whatever. Who some people out there I've spoken with when I was invited to that Discord app last year didn't believe that it's real. And that's fine. I don't, you know, I don't try to force my beliefs on people. That's up to you. You know, you want to receive the information or not. That's why I encourage everyone, even through my disclaimer, it's up to everyone to do their own homework and research. But I've done, you know, played my part, and I'm just trying to share with those who are aware and kind of give them a pathway to research this. And I do appreciate the assistance from a few people that I met that I'm still in close contact with. You know, we may not talk consistently, but they know who they are. I'm not going to say their names, whatever. And we have a lot of new people who are phenomenal with their research skills, because keep in mind, these elite people, they were many of them were taught by their parents. They were sent to private schools by invitation only. They studied out of encyclopedias or etymology dictionaries, or they were given the information by the ruling class elite who control this information. Kind of like if you play sports before, it's like a playbook, how the coach has a playbook, and it's a different, maybe a skill set for each individual team. It's a play that you run, like in football, you have play action, or if you're going to do a blitz, the elites basically have the cheat sheet. This is what I was explaining on the Discord app, kind of like the video game developers. Another example, I'm just mentioning this analogy metaphorically so you all out there can understand. There is a group behind the scenes, an elite group of people, and they have like the cheat sheet, and video game developers will have the codes to games before they're even released. You know how many different video games would have a code to them. So that's kind of like with this information. It's like in the public sector where we operate, where they did everything with your birth certificate. That is definitely true. Without further ado, I want to get to not pontificate, but just kind of give you all out there an idea. Like I say, I do have some notes with me. I have to kind of find where they're at. Okay, I'm going to kind of go over the QSIP number on the back of the SSN card. That is a form of a QSIP. You know, I recommend going on Wikipedia, do your research on QSIP's Committee on Uniform Securities Identification Procedures, or Committee on Uniform Securities Identification or Principle, whatnot. There's like different variations too. And these our BC, which is like an acronym for our birth certificate, is pledged as collateral, where they create bonds off of it. Even though it might not necessarily be a bond itself, it's similar to a bond. I think someone shared with me privately, they have the evidence on it. I saw it, they showed it to me. It's a book. It might be a private issue government security. In some accounting classes, they teach about marketable and non-marketable securities, and I'm still trying to piece together this information, because like I said, it's also encrypted and it's hidden from in plain sight as well from the general public. And there's certain laws it's encoded in this information where certain individuals out there have been able to crack kind of like the code, or decrypt the encryption within the laws. That's kind of like what you know, Jonah Bey has been able to with his awesome research, even you, Savell, and also people through trial and error. Commend all of the gurus throughout the years. I never knocked any of the gurus, even the people earlier on, like Winston Shrout, Dr. Sam Kennedy, because even though Patrick Devine, even though they might not have had all of the information, they helped us connect the dots. Even construction contractors too, where they were mentioning about the 1099 form some years ago. That came, I met Tom Schultz at the event. There was some private writings online on the internet, and I actually got a chance to meet him in person. He had some paperwork documents with Patrick Devine. You still might be able to find those on scribs.com, I believe. You know, a lot of those documents used to be free, but somehow you have these payment services they're charging to download these PDFs and documents, where they want you to sign up with them, similar to like the torrent sites or whatever. So, you know, I remember reading those documents many years ago. Many groups of people I studied with already had downloaded some of that information, but all of a collection of that helps you connect the pieces together on how this is real. These corporations and banking institutions also can act as intermediaries, because the concept is that there's a difference between an employer and employee. An employer has higher authority than an employee, and they are allowed for taxable purposes. And this is not tax or legal advice. I did give a disclaimer, but it was shared with me that a corporation can spend the money first, then pay taxes, whereas an employee has to pay taxes where they take the taxes out your check up front. But with corporation or certain types of corporations, it's different, where they can spend the money first and then pay the taxes later. So they have like a higher authority. It's encrypted. There is a pecking order or hierarchy system too. When they talk about status correction, there is truth to that out there with some of the other groups the Moors have spoken about. There's certain things I won't go into because I don't want to also confuse people. I want to keep this simple as possible, but to try to help connect the pieces. But that code that people were getting with the TDAs, that R34, I was told also years ago, I can't remember specifically if Pastor King mentioned this on any of the audios or if it was at the event. I can't, but I do recall him mentioning, like I say, to reiterate, I don't know if it's from any of the seminars that I have, because he only did audios. He didn't do videos, but he stated that these payments used to go through years ago. But what happened was something about they started to put up a red flag, because I guess these corporations saw the names of people and they were like, but they were listed as banks, and they were like, what are all these people, these payments that were going through? So they did something some years ago to prevent payments. So the consent form is another term for application to access these accounts. But I believe since it went viral last year, in my opinion, I know at one time you used to be able to call the FRB or Federal Reserve Bank up and actually get someone in person for a certain number that they had. And then because last year would happen, and there were other groups that had videos that went viral on YouTube, certain individuals, some of you all still might remember and know who they were. And I think I was like, it really went viral, so it put up a red flag. So they sent these memos out, but they were real, but of course they can't let the public know. And they also just put in a voice message where you couldn't even reach a live rep. That's when you would call the 800 number for the Federal Reserve. But Telecheck did confirm, this is from my experience, to take my word for it. I would have tried to record the call. I had some other people out there mention this too, but she looked my account up with the Federal Reserve. It was through the Bank of Chicago. I had G on the back of one of my latest card. And then she confirmed, she was like, you do have an account, because I gave her some other routing numbers and she said, I don't find that in the system. But when I gave her my social security number and the routing number to the Federal Reserve, she was able to pull it up, and Treasury Direct, that one routing number that started with 0517. So there was a certain way, to access these accounts, but it was not really being explained or shared fully. But I do know from experience attending that event, from some years ago, I mentioned to reiterate that the individual did say they used to go through easily with no reversals years ago. So that's something, I don't know what year they stopped it or in our more recent time, and they said because the names of people showed up as banks, it put up a red flag, or I guess spooked these people out. And they want to keep things compartmentalized. They don't want people or their minions in the general public, or even some of their gatekeepers, to be aware of some of this information. However, I'm of the opinion that there are certain individuals out here who work in the public who know these secrets, I call them, and do have access, but they're not willing to share. Some of them may have signed non-disclosure agreements, and some of them, these people are also members of secret societies too, from what I've researched. And I have some bombshell evidence down the line of some other things I'm going to go over that's related to this information that I personally experienced. And again, I did give a disclaimer, these are my opinions, but I'm going off of my experience, my research, to share with those that had questions out there, were wondering. I also mentioned some of this information on some private conference calls I used to do through the Discord app. I was invited to some different groups on there that I joined. I'm no longer active on there as much anymore. So just in case you are aware, I was thinking about maybe down the line starting my own server, but I do have a very busy schedule, and I'm still studying this information. I'm just at maybe a different level than some other people who are learning this for the first time. I don't claim to be a guru. I'm just like everybody else. I do my own research, my due diligence. I still do, unfortunately, work a job which I thought I would have been out of a long time ago, but it is for what it is. And you know, that's why one of the reasons I do have a busy schedule. I'm just trying to look for some more information to give you guys, to provide some more some validity and tie in with some things. But I didn't see the chat up, so I'm learning. This is my first time going live on my on the phone. Normally I go live on my laptop, but this is my first time going on the phone. So if you guys have any questions, if there's a way to jump in the chat. I see good morning to Camilla Barnes. Good morning to you as well. Oh yeah, by the way, Camilla Barnes, I did get your email late. That email address, just to give you a heads up, I don't use that particular email, but I did plan on getting back with you. The email address that I used was that I gave you before from a previous video was Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. I don't use the other one as of yet or whatnot, just so you know. Just wanted to give you a heads up kind of with that. So they have to assign these QSIP numbers to these bonds. Even the SSN numbers I found out are assigned to these bonds. The number on the back of the SSN card is attached to other bonds. So when we do stuff in the public, they take out a loan. They use the QSIP numbers to create credit off of. Yep, to create credit. Someone was explaining to me recently about how everything is in the escrow account, and we have to balance the books on it. They didn't tell us behind the scenes. This is like high-level accounting, and you do that with there's different processes with certain forms, with balancing the books or zeroing out your account with escrow. Like everything's held at DTC, Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. Like the Federal Reserve is also up under the DTC. And if some years ago, if you went to both of their websites, you would actually see on their website, I know definitely the Federal Reserve, you would see the Treasury Direct, and you would see a connection to DTC. I even found a link to another site. So these governmental agencies, I was explaining to some people, because in some earlier videos when a certain individual was trying to debunk some things, no, their information was inaccurate, incorrect. You're hearing it from an actual source to show they're lying to you. Because I guess from watching their video, she was hurt from a process of she maybe paid somebody some money years ago, and you have to determine whether or not, you know, what is real. You have to do your due diligence. Yes, there are scam artists out here, but everybody is not a con artist. There is truth to this information. This information is real. You have to work for it. It doesn't come easy. I had to pay my dues. I had to put in work for this. And there's people more advanced than me, which I named some of them earlier. Also, for more validity, a lot of people that had questions about the Black Card Tony King seminars, look up David Clarence's information too online. You can still pull it up. I believe his name is David Clarence. Listen to his old audios. He'll provide some insight into what's going on. Yeah, please look his information, David Clarence. It will help give you an understanding of what's going on when it comes to that out here. So, you know, like I said, to reiterate earlier, everything that we do is inside an escrow account. For example, they say your light bill, your gas bill, your student loans, mortgage, car notes. It's all about the bonds too. That's like another part of it behind the scenes. And when you fill out some of these forms, like with the 1099s with the IRS or whatever, you're supposed to be balancing the books. But however, the cabal has put obstacles in place, just like with the Federal Reserve using the other method to make it difficult, this is very mean. This is also malicious, but I want to provide validity. If I had was able to get a strong research team, and I'm looking down the line, is to create a VIP members that will have more access to me, because I am looking in down the road maybe to branding myself. But like I say, I'm still on the job, and it's very difficult trying to manage time to and take phone calls. So it's not personal that I'm ignoring you. I need to screen out people as well, because we have some moles that are out there. There's people that don't have good intentions. I explained to a friend of mine, I'm not trying to empower people to do exactly what the cabal has been responsible for doing with drug trafficking, human trafficking, stuff like that, bringing drugs into the country, poisoning our food supply. I'll talk about humanitarian projects later, but you need to be careful who you donate to. You want to invest, do your research behind these corporations who you decide to donate to, because all of these entities and individuals don't have our best interest at heart. They use there's certain people out there that are deceitful. So the people I'm looking to build with, I have some people already behind the scenes, someone I hadn't heard from in a while. Appreciate them calling me. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want people that might know me on here that know them to be blowing their phone up. This is what I know how people do to keep things private. But because I'm at an advanced stage, so kind of like in high school or college, how you had your advanced students and they brainstorm together, I'm looking for trustworthy people that are reliable, that are not deceitful, that have good intentions. And it would be awesome. It's very difficult, but it would be awesome if I met someone from the private sector who's already there, who would have kind enough heart to, I would never say who they are, if they were able to get me or show me how to access the funding, because I do hear some people have to sign non-disclosure agreements, but at the same time, I've discovered there is a way for certain individuals to share this information, and some people have used me in the past, some of my research, and didn't reach back and help, I think, as much as I would have helped them or whatnot, not in my opinion or whatever. And I just don't think that's fair. And I am trying to come up in the game. In the meantime, as I'm still on this plantation, as I like to call it, as a figure of speech. But if I'm able to meet somebody from the private sector that's willing to walk me through or bring me in, that would be the icing on the cake, and you would have a friend for life. I'm the type of person, I'm a trustworthy person, but I see people that see my kindness sometimes and they want to try to manipulate that or take that for weakness, because I studied dating psychology too, and I'm just real particular. So don't think you're going to get in with me. I got to screen people out, definitely. And like I say, I'm not trying to empower people that have deceitful intentions, that are or have nefarious intent, that are methodical, because karma is real, and there was instances of people that got themselves messed up in bad predicaments. But unfortunately, we do have, like, some of the cabal members, unfortunately, like I said earlier, some of them were already taught by their parents or sent to private schools by invitation only, so they already had a head start at this information. It's second nature to them, so they have the confidence already. They're not afraid if they have to go file paperwork, because they understand how everything is set up with the county and everything, the way they were taught. Because like I said, the elites, they have a way of teaching you to break the information down where it's concise. And then you have people who may have cracked the code, who are bitter, who are aware of this information, but they're burnt really bad. And some of them are haters. There's a crab in the barrel mentality where it's like they don't want to see you make it or whatever, as they feel like they worked hard. But I know my personality, characteristic traits, if I'm the type of person, what would be great is if I can meet someone, an elite from the private sector, someone, elite, or one of their children who was willing to share with me, walk me through. Like I say, you would have a friend for life, because they actually recruit, high level people in the public, because they need people to trust. Like I had a friend some years ago that worked President Obama's campaign, and it didn't dawn on me, like, out of all his other friends, he knows that I was into this so-called conspiracy stuff, but I go over facts. And I'm like, why would he choose me? And I thought about it, and I said, it's because some of these corrupt elite people, they can't trust each other. They can't even trust their own friends or some of their own family members to stab them in the back. So they need people they can trust. So this is what I'm selective about. But at the same time, I want to be able to access my freedom. I'm not trying to control people. I explained to a friend of mine years ago, I would love to live my life. I feel like I could have been married by now, You know, I really wanted to be able to settle down, but I see there is also a plan in place to destroy the family structure. I won't go into that, dealing with social engineering and what some of these cabal members are trying to do to corrupt our society. And in my community, specifically dealing with the black community, there's been a plan in place for years, quite some time, but it affects every culture. They have a plan, but some people are more drastically affected than others. It's a methodical plan that's been well thought out years ago, but I'm not going to pontificate. I just wanted to go on my reasons, like dealing with the TDA accounts, who's blocking our access. But to give you guys a heads up, an idea, they said you have to go through an interview process with the Federal Reserve. I don't know what they're doing now. I believe it's still up, that there's individuals out there still accessing it, but they made it very exclusive. From what I know, a friend of mine, someone who called up recently behind the scenes that does assist me and gives me intel dealing with their research. Like I say, I'm not going to say their name. I was giving them a heads up. If you go to their website, frbservices.org, they updated it. It's the I believe the operating circulars, that is like another name for consent forms or consent application, dealing with you need to get consent, like a form of permission. And I heard if you go in as an individual, then you would go through like a 72-hour background check or whatever through Secret Service. They do run background checks too. I was explaining to a lady who called me up and asked me for some advice dealing with the dinar, and I'm not doing that for everybody. That's just you know, because I really should be getting paid for it. You know, I feel, in my opinion, I just don't know how to brand some of this information. I didn't, you know, I need really some assistance in areas. I don't know everything, but it's certain help that I need specifically. And because of that, I would be able to do more things if I wasn't stuck to this 9-to-5 job. As I explained to a friend of mine years ago, because I share with him as well as some other people, not trying to blame him, but he understands what I'm talking about. There was people hating on me. They said too, like, and there's a big crab in the barrel complex within the black community too. It's like they feel like if I can't make it, I don't want you to make it or whatnot. And I was focused, and I shared a lot of information. I paid my dues, and I have helped people out in the past. I can name, you know, numerous stories, and I've had people speak up on my behalf. Like brother, I'll say the one name, brother Dawood down in DC. Big shout out to Dawood. He's a real good brother, despite, you know, we had totally different backgrounds. He was Muslim, I was raised Christian, but, you know, we can come together despite our political beliefs and differences. And we've been in the movement for a long time. We shared information as well. And I had some people too, if I gain access to this wealth, I'm never going to forget how they, years ago, the pastor that looked out for me, I was going to save in a different video. I would like to bless some people. This brother, Zamar, some years ago, I never forgot, back in 2004, when I went to my first meeting, I didn't know how I was going to get back home. I caught the bus there, and he gave me, I think, $5 so I can make it back. Stuff like that. People, I'm not going to never forget. And I want to bless certain people too. Some people know what I mean from, you know, I was raised in the church. You know, I like to look out. So, you know, but there's people too that try to, like I said, to reiterate earlier, try to sneak in and slip in, and they don't really have your best interest. They just trying to get this information. They're slick willies and stuff. And I've paid my dues. I put in work for this. You know, I put in, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And it's still not, it's people that's put in more. Like I gave props to, I got to give credit where credit is due at the end of the day. The names that I did mention, you know, that's just me giving props, credit where credit is due, you know, despite, but I have done my own due diligence, and I sweated tears, and I feel like, you know, I should have been there a long time ago. It's ridiculous, but it is for what it is. I'm not complaining. At the end of the day, I'm blessed. We all breathing. I'm a humble person, man of integrity, which implies honesty, loyalty, trustworthiness, sincere, being humble. And that's what I want to pride myself off. So if you guys did take the time to watch this video, I want to sincerely thank you. Don't forget to hit the bell at the bottom. If you haven't subscribed, you can receive updates when I put out new videos. And you can follow me. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. And I'm on YouTube at Dorsey's Resource. Down the line, maybe I did definitely mention I'm looking to get on other platforms because of all the censorship that's going on, because, you know, you can't trust YouTube, but I never, some of my information, I don't go really hardcore to that gets into violations or whatever. I won't go into all of that already, but I do appreciate the feedback from you all out there, and don't forget to thumbs up. And until next time, Dorsey's Resource. Take care.